Hi, my name is Rachel, and I want to tell you a story that turned my life completely upside down. It's a story about how 10 years of marriage can crumble overnight, and how the man you love can turn into a total stranger. But it's also a story about how betrayal can be the start of a new, better life. 10 years of illusion. Mark and I met in college. He was studying engineering, I was studying psychology. We were that couple everyone looked at with a bit of envy. Attractive, successful, and deeply in love. We got married right after graduation. I remember him saying in his vows, "Rachel, you are the only one I will ever love for the rest of my life." The first few years were like a fairy tale. We built our careers, bought our first apartment, and planned for kids. Mark worked at a major tech company, and I opened my own private psychology practice. We seemed like the perfect family. But somewhere around year 7, things started to change. It was subtle at first. He started working more, talking about his feelings less, and spending more time glued to his phone. I chalked it up to stress. He'd just gotten a promotion with new responsibilities. I supported him, like a good wife does. The warning signs. The last 6 months were especially strange. Mark started looking better. A new haircut, stylish clothes, a gym membership. "I want to look good for you," he'd say when I commented on it. And I believed him. He started staying late at work more and more often. "A new project," he explained. He'd come home tired and distracted. His phone would ring in the evenings. "It's just my colleagues," he'd say, walking into another room to talk. The most painful memory from that time was our wedding anniversary, 3 months before everything fell apart. I had cooked a special dinner and put on a beautiful dress that he once loved. He came home at 11 p.m. with a bouquet from the nearest 24-hour convenience store, apologizing about an urgent client meeting. That was the first time I thought, what if? But I immediately pushed the thought away. Mark would never cheat. He loved me. That fateful Thursday. I remember every detail of that evening. I was making his favorite pasta carbonara. Ironic, isn't it? The last supper for the man who was about to destroy my life. It was drizzling outside, and the house smelled of basil and garlic. I had music playing, daydreaming about our trip to Italy we were planning for the fall. Mark came home at 8:30. Usually, he'd head straight for the shower, but that day, he just sat down at the kitchen table and stared at me. There was something odd in his eyes, a mix of guilt and resolve. "Rach, we need to talk." I turned off the stove. My mouth went dry. "I've been seeing someone else," he said, as casually as if he were telling me we were out of milk. "For 6 months." The world stopped. Literally. I could hear the clock ticking on the wall and the rain outside, but it all sounded very far away. 6 months. Half a year of lies. While I was believing in our love, he was deceiving me every single day. "Who?" It was the only word I could get out. "Sophia, from the office. You remember her. She came to the company holiday party last year." Did I remember? Of course I did. A blonde woman in her mid-20s, big eyes, a bubbly laugh. I even thought to myself at the time what a sweet girl she seemed. Sweet. But what came next was something out of a surrealist film. Mark leaned across the table, took my hands, and smiled. "But listen, babe, it was a test. A test of my love for you." I stared at him. Was he losing his mind? I was seeing Sophia to figure out if I truly loved you. And you know what? You won. Every time I was with her, I was thinking about you, about your smile, the way you laugh at my stupid jokes, the way you take care of me. It proved to me that you are the love of my life. He said this with so much enthusiasm, like he was describing a brilliant scientific breakthrough. His eyes were shining like a kid who had just solved a complex puzzle. "Not every man is willing to make a sacrifice like that for love," he continued. "Do you think it was easy for me? I forced myself to be with another woman just to be sure of my feelings for you." "You forced yourself?" I repeated, my voice a whisper. "Of course. It was an experiment, a scientific approach to love, and the result exceeded all expectations. I realized I can't live without you." The shock and realization. I sat there, looking at the man who had been my husband for 10 years, and felt reality itself fracturing into pieces. Did he really think I would believe this insane story? That his cheating was a gift to me? "You should be happy," he said, squeezing my hands. "Now you know for sure that I choose you. I will always choose you." Fragments of the last few months flashed through my mind. His new clothes. Not for me, for her. Staying late at work. Dates with her. His distracted evenings. He was thinking about her. And all those months, I had blamed myself for being paranoid and distrustful. "Mark," I whispered, "do you hear what you're saying?" "Of course. I'm saying I conducted the most important experiment of my life and got proof that we're meant to be together." An experiment. He called his affair an experiment. Taking the first step. I stood up from the table. My legs were shaky, but I forced myself to walk. I went into the bedroom, closed the door, and pulled out my phone. My fingers trembled as I Googled "best divorce lawyer." Mark stayed in the kitchen. I could hear him pacing, muttering something to himself, probably rehearsing new arguments in favor of his experiment. I found the contact information for 3 lawyers and called the first one on the list. Voicemail. In a voice I didn't recognize as my own, I left a message. "My name is Rachel Connor. I need an urgent consultation regarding a divorce. Tomorrow, if possible. It's very urgent." When I came back to the kitchen, Mark was on my laptop. "What are you doing?" "I'm looking for articles about how testing a relationship strengthens a marriage. I want to show you the scientific basis for my actions." A scientific basis? For cheating? The sleepless night. I didn't sleep that night. I lay next to my husband, who was breathing peacefully, and tried to understand, when did I stop knowing him? When did he turn into this stranger who thinks infidelity is a gift? I thought about our first date, our first kiss, his proposal. He was down on one knee in the same park where we first met, swearing his eternal love. And he was sincere. I saw it in his eyes. Now, those same eyes were looking at me and talking about an experiment, about how 6 months of deceit was proof of his love. Around 5 a.m., I realized the most important thing. Even if he hadn't cheated, I couldn't stay with a man who thinks I'm that stupid, who believes I'll swallow any lie as long as it's packaged nicely. Meeting the lawyer. The next day, the lawyer, a stern woman in her 50s, listened to my story in silence. Only at the very end did she raise her eyebrows. "A love test? That's a new one. Usually they blame it on alcohol or a moment of insanity." Does he really think I would believe this insane story? "Mrs. Connor, in 20 years of practice, I've heard it all, but your story is in the top tier of creative excuses." We discussed the process, the timeline, the finances. I felt a strange sense of relief. For the first time in months, I was doing something, not just enduring and hoping. The truth comes out. 2 days later, Mark saw the papers on the table, the petition for dissolution of marriage. His face went white. "Are you serious?" "Completely." But I explained everything. It was a test." "Mark, stop. Just stop lying." And that's when he broke. He collapsed into a chair and started to cry. It was the first time I had ever seen him cry. "She dumped me," he whispered. "Sophia, 3 days ago. She said she met someone who was ready to be with her openly, that she was tired of being a secret." The truth. Finally, the truth. I panicked, Rach. I lost her and I was terrified of losing you. So I made up that story about the test. I thought if I presented the affair as a sacrifice for our marriage, you'd forgive me. And what was the real story? The real story is that I fell in love with her. I really did. And I thought I was ready to leave you for her. But she didn't want a serious relationship. For her, it was just a fling. Every word was a blow to the heart. But strangely, the pain felt cleaner. It was the pain of the truth, not the humiliation of a lie. The last attempt. For the next few weeks, Mark tried to win me back.
Flowers every day, apology letters, calls to my work. He even went to my parents and told his version without the love test, just a mistake he was ready to spend his life fixing. My mom called me. "Rachel, he seems so genuinely sorry. Maybe you should give him another chance." "Mom, if Dad cheated on you and then lied about it for 6 months, would you forgive him?" A long pause. "No," she said quietly. "I guess not."
Divorce and discoveries. The divorce process took 4 months. Mark didn't fight it. I think deep down he knew what he had done. We divided our assets peacefully. He left me the apartment. Guilt, my lawyer said. During that time, I learned a lot of interesting things. It turned out Sophia wasn't the first. Before her, there was Lisa from the department next door for 3 months. And before that, Kate, an intern. Mark had been cheating on me for years. Sophia was just the last one to dump him. My friends started telling me things they had hidden. We saw him with different women, but we didn't know how to tell you. He asked us not to say anything. Said you two were going through a rough patch but would work it out. We thought you knew but didn't want to talk about it. It turned out everyone knew about Mark's affairs except me. I was the only one who believed in our happy marriage. A new life. The divorce was finalized in February. I remember that day. It was snowy and cold, but sunny. Walking out of the courthouse, I felt something amazing. Freedom. The first few months were hard. I had to learn how to live alone again, to make decisions for myself without looking for someone else's approval. But every day got a little easier. I signed up for Spanish classes. I had always wanted to learn, but Mark used to say, "What do you need that for?" I started traveling, either alone or with friends. I bought that bright red car I'd always wanted, the one Mark thought was too flashy. Most importantly, I got myself back, the Rachel who existed before the marriage, bold, independent, and aware of her own worth. The meeting 6 months later. I ran into Mark at the mall recently. He looked older, tired. We talked for a few minutes. "How are you?" he asked. "I'm great," I replied. And it was the truth. "Rach, I still think about us, about how I could have changed." "Mark, everything has already changed, for the better." He wanted to say something else, but I was already walking away. In the reflection of a store window, I could see him watching me go. The lesson that changed everything. This story taught me the most important lesson. Love without respect is not love. If a person can lie to your face for months, cheat behind your back, and then invent fantastic excuses, he doesn't love you. He loves the comfort you provide. Real love doesn't need tests. It doesn't hide behind lies. It doesn't humiliate you by making you believe absurd explanations for obvious facts. I deserved the truth. We all deserve the truth, even when it's painful. A new beginning. Now, a year after the divorce, I can honestly say it was the best decision of my life. I'm happy, genuinely happy. Not with this strained smile I used to hide our problems, but with a real, sincere joy. I have new friends, new hobbies, new dreams. I opened my own psychology clinic, and now I help other women who have gone through similar ordeals. And Mark, the last I heard, he's still living alone in a rented apartment. And Sophia, by the way, did get married to the same guy she left my ex-husband for. That was my story. The story of how betrayal can become the beginning of a new life. Thanks for listening. If you have a similar experience or any questions, please share them in the comments. Remember, you are stronger than you think, and you deserve real love.